Welcome to Tales of Reddit. In this episode, we see how it's probably not a good idea to trick a young employee into working for free, and to never ever get between someone and their lunch. Slumlord won't let the company out of a 5-year lease. I get the building condemned. To start, this is about the company I work for and a trip I took because I had to wire a building for a computer network because the building owner wouldn't. Backstory. Our company was moving a remote site to a new building. As the IT guy for the company, I was asked to look at the new building and get network ports marked out. The landlord refused to put in any low voltage lines, and we got quotes, but they were thousands of dollars. Enter me, my car, and 4 boxes of Cat 6 plenum. It's about an 8-hour drive, and I was doing about 30 drops. Not a ton, but still, a few days' work in someplace that's already built up. And it's drop ceiling with insulation on top. Messy, itchy work. Day 1. We get there Monday morning at the start of the month. It's actually a cool summer morning, and we're from further south, so no one notices the AC not working for about an hour. Slowly, the building begins heating up. It gets to 80 by noon, 85 at 3 p.m. The rooms with floor-to-ceiling windows are greenhouses. It's absolutely miserable. We've been told by the workers still on site that the leasing company was told there was no AC in our building 3 weeks ago. The other thing is there are still workers on site. The building isn't completed. So much for being ready for a handover day 1. Day 2. We're getting agitated. It's 80 degrees in the AM when we first walk in. It's sweltering. The other guy that came up with me is the facilities manager. He's screaming at people over the phone to fix the fucking AC. We're all exhausted from the heat by 3 p.m. I found a 4-foot hole in the ducting when I opened the ceiling tile. The AC was blowing, but there was no cold air. We are told the compressor is broken. Day 3. More of the same. Miserable in the morning, I'm finally getting the last lines punched in on the patch panel. The AC guys arrive about 10 a.m. They finally fix the unit at 2 p.m. We ask them what they did. They said, a lot of things. We again said, what did you do? The reply was, we can't tell the tenants. Red flag alert. We contacted our realtor. She said she would look into what was done. She sends an email later that night that says, they changed the refrigerant from R22 to R410A. I tell the facilities guy, no way dude. That's like putting gas in a diesel motor. They'd have to change out the entire system. They didn't do that in 4 hours. They basically duct taped and WD-40'd that thing back together, and it will run poorly for a month or so, then give out, and we'd be stuck with a replacement. Day 4. Still no running water to some areas, still workers on site. The AC can't keep up with the noonday sun, and it still hits around 80 by the end of the day. AC runs continuously. We're packing up all the stuff we moved in and moving out. I notice all the fire sprinklers look like they have moved, and the metal protection around the drop tile has fallen to the floor. The sprinklers are no longer protruding from the tiles in places, in others, they are quite a bit lower than they were. Yep, the AC fools stood on the fire sprinklers to fix their lousy ductwork. We are looking for a friendly way out. We contact the landlord and say, you haven't delivered a finished building, we're moving out, the lease is broken. Landlord has a 36-page lease. Landlord won't let us out of the lease, it's 5 years. This is not starting off well. We get in contact with the corporate lawyer and the realtor. They both agree we're kind of fucked. We are desperate for any way out. I start looking at the fire system. I used to run all kinds of low voltage lines, fire, security, etc. There is no fire panel in our portion of the building. No smoke detectors are hooked up to anything. More red flags. One of our employees that was moving the heavy gear says, oh yeah, I meant to mention, I never saw any building permits anywhere. Ding ding ding. They did this build out, including demolition, running new plumbing and power lines, and destroying the fire system. Without a city permit. Cue the call to city inspector's office. Day 5. I wasn't here for this part, but the facilities manager told me this. The city inspector pulled the permits for the building. There weren't any. He finds multiple violations of city code. Red tagged our area, removed the certificate of occupancy. When I told him to check the fire system like you said, he just goes, oh no, I have to make a call. He calls the fire marshal. Day 8. Fire marshals arrive on scene. Find no active alarm system in our portion of the building. Red tag. Find the sprinkler riser for the entire building in our area. No water pressure. Condemned the entire building. Basically, they wouldn't let us out of the building because we signed a lease, even though they never delivered a building in any semblance of working order. Called the building inspector, got them smoked, who then called the fire marshal, who condemned the entire building. They are still trying to fight us over it, but we're pushing for them not only refunding our deposit and the rent, which they have already done, but for all the time spent moving gear in and out, and all the wiring. Our lawyer says they don't have a leg to stand on, and he's happy for them to pay his fees as well. Revenge is a dish served very, 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 very cold. In my young 20s, I moved to a new city to try to start my career in life. Money was very tight, but I was confident I would get things up and running. In my job search, I came across a promising opportunity at a small firm, The Firm. Instead of offering me the job, the owner said he would like me to come in for 2 days and work. If it was a fit, they would hire me, and if not, they would pay for the 2 days. Money was so tight at the time that I figured taking the bus to and from the job was a luxury I could not afford and walked an hour each way to get there. Money was very tight. I did good work both the days and worked very hard, but it was not a fit. The owner then tells me, "I know we said we would pay you, but it's just too complicated to set you up for just 2 days, so you will just have to be happy you got the experience with us." The way he acted really rubbed me the wrong way. I was mad as I really needed the money, but as I was trying to find a job, I figured it was not in my best interest to make waves as word may get around I was difficult. I did however decide that someday, some way, I would get my revenge on the owner. I did find a good job that led to great career. But I always kept tabs on the owner, looking for the time and place to get some revenge, and even a few times considered some more juvenile methods. Just short of 20 years passed, and now I was very senior in my chosen professional, but instead of working for a small firm, I was a leader in a very large national company that hired firms. As it turns out, we had a large contract come up that I was the lead executive on the procurement team in the area the firm operated in. Things have changed a bit over the years, but bidding on these contracts was at the firm's expense at the time back in the early 2000s. However, to safeguard them from wasting too much money, the bidding would be in stages. Well, sure enough, the owner and his firm put in an exploratory bid. They were not perfect for the job, but they could actually do it, so I assisted in them moving to the next stage, and the next stage, and then the final stage. The easiest thing I could have done was shut them down right away and got a bit of revenge, but they were qualified, so I did not do that. There was some risk to letting them go through to the end though. Though I was the lead, it was a team decision, and to be honest, if they had the best proposal despite my thirst for revenge, I would vote for them. The proposals and presentation came in, and luckily the other firm was a bit better and we went with them. Normally, the executive lead didn't deliver the bad news in the bid process, but I volunteered to take on the call, and that was my little dose of revenge. It was fun to call the owner, who had no idea we met 20 years ago, and tell him, "We were impressed with your proposal, but it is just not the right fit. I know you must be disappointed to not get the contract, but at least you got great exposure to our process." I know I should have used his own words from 20 years ago, but I could not bring myself to do it. The firm must have done about 200 hours of work on their proposal, so I figured that was payback for my 16 hours with 20 years of interest. Dirty, dirty little lunch thief. In the past, I have read about dirty, dirty little office lunch thieves and have wanted to share mine, but had other things going on to post it. This took place when I was still a teen fresh out of university, working directly under an engineer. The office I was doing my 4,000 hours in was a fairly large 5-floor office building, a Toronto construction firm. Well, I was lazy and always picked up a lunch from Whole Foods, usually sushi, on my way to work. My floor had its own break room and fridge, and for the first 6 months nothing ever went missing until we got a batch of university office interns in, paid interns. Then wouldn't you know it, lunches would go missing, and it wasn't just mine. Any lunch in store packaging was gone if there was a name on it or not. Well, after 2 weeks of our lunches just walking away, we're all getting annoyed. One of the engineers comes up with an idea and asks everyone to throw in a couple of dollars to solve this problem. The following week he sends a text to the store-bought lunch people to meet in the break room before work, and sent a text to everyone in the office to not touch any of the packaged lunches. We meet up and he hands us this little spray bottle to spray the packaging. It was this black light reactive spray. Glows from a black light, but completely undetectable. Lunch rolls around and guess what, every single packaged lunch is gone. And this guy brings out a black light and starts looking for fingerprints. He found them on the door down the hall to the elevator. Now imagine 5 of the super nerdy engineers you have ever seen going down a hallway with a black light like something from a discount CSI. Well, there are fingerprints everywhere right up to the elevator on the buttons down to the 2nd floor. Down the hallway at this time I figured some of the interns are nicking our lunches. But I was wrong. We followed it right to the head of the sales department's desk. And when we demand to see his hands, they fucking were glowing like crazy. Not to mention he had touched his face, so there was this glowing mess covering his face. The guy knew he was caught and we made an agreement not to go to HR but to get a picture in pizza for our floor every Friday for 2 months. We stayed extra that day to print out the glowing mess that was his face. We printed at least 100 of them with the caption "Dirty Dirty Lunch Thief." Those damn things went up everywhere. The bathrooms, all the entryways of the building, every office door and desk in sight. Needless to say, the lunches stopped going missing and I was able to eat my sushi in peace.
Hope everyone found this entertaining. See you in the next one.